Christopher Franklin Lofton, born March 27, 1986. The early 2000s was such a great era for basketball, especially at the collegiate level. Chris Lofton was arguably the best shooter of that time. Salim Stoudemire is still the best college shooter I've ever watched, factoring in clutch moments as well, but Lofton was right on his heel in that skill. He shot an astonishing 42% for his career of 4 years and still wasn't drafted into the NBA. But being underrated isn't anything new for the Vols legend. Let's get into why a few hometown schools and the league missed out on a player that could have ended up as one of the game's greatest shooters ever. Salute to the 2K trainer on IG and my man Blake the Great for this request. It's been a long time coming, but it's here. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Stunt number 1, Cardinals Wildcats. Lofton is a Maysville, Kentucky kid that starred in high school. He's a state champion and state Mr. Basketball, yet he wasn't offered a college scholarship to the two main schools in the area, the Kentucky Wildcats and Louisville, which is crazy to me seeing Kentucky's roster that year that would have been his freshman year. Rondo would have been a perfect fit with him. Instead, Chris went on to have a Hall of Fame career at Tennessee. But the reason why I say this was a growth stunt is because he going to a more high-profile school and also a school that fit his skill set could have changed his future chances of making the big leagues. Like mentioned earlier, playing at Kentucky with a point guard like Rondo and coach like Tubby Smith would have been more beneficial for him in my opinion. Kentucky's wings in that span was Kalena Azubuike and Patrick Sparks, and eventually Joe Crawford. Lofton had better collegiate careers than all those guys. In the spotlight of UK, Lofton would have been Devin Booker before Devin was a household name. Louisville had their own star on the wing in Francisco Garcia, who was used as a point forward at times, so I understand the reason he wasn't a great fit there. Although I still think at a program like that, he would have had a bigger name, which comes with the opportunity to get drafted, with coaches focusing on the bigger conferences. Lofton had a standout freshman season, where he made third team All-America and was second on the team in scoring. Stunt number 2, biggest fight of his life. Lofton's second stunt is I think the biggest stunt of his career, and possibly his life. Chris was carving out a really nice niche at Tennessee, despite being overlooked by the big schools in his state. As a freshman, he averaged 13.2 points a game, shot 85% from the foul line, a career high and mind-blowing 47% from 3, and over 50% from 2. He started every game in his career. As a sophomore, Lofton broke out. He became the team's leading scorer, with former NBA guard CJ Watson sharing the backcourt with him. He had a few 30-point games, which were career highs against Georgia and Texas. He was second team All-America again, averaging 17.2 points, 91% from the foul line, 44% from 3, and 53% from 2. His team was first in the SEC East and made the tourney for a second straight year with Chris. Lofton was now comfortable, consistent, and shaping up to have a really good college career. His junior year would make him great. He led the SEC in scoring at 20.8 points a game, was the player of the year in the conference, and All-American second team once again. He led his team to the Sweet 16, where they eventually lost to Ohio State. After the game, he was drug tested after going off for 24 points and hitting 6 threes. Sounds a bit unfair, right? It would actually be the one thing that saved his life. Instead of finding illegal substances in his blood, they found that Lofton actually showed signs of cancer. This would be confirmed when he tested positive for testicular cancer after more tests back in Tennessee were performed. Lofton was obviously devastated to hear the news. He would have the surgery to remove it and underwent radiation for a month. This was the summer before his senior year began and the exact point of where his growth was stunted again. He returned as a senior and was a shell of himself. He was weak, his stamina lacked, and he wasn't able to put in the time needed on the court to take his game to expected heights in his highly important senior year. Chris saw a significant dip in his output, and it was clearly because of the cancer he fought that summer. He averaged 15 points a game, 84% from the line, 43% from two, but the biggest dip was in his three-point shooting. The thing he was known for, and the one thing that would have gotten him drafted, dropped to a career-low 38%. He won his battle with cancer, but was doomed as a draft pick, even with the team's success. Stunt number 3, other important skills. Chris's final stunt, in my opinion, came because he just didn't possess other skills that could have made him a more attractive prospect and put him over the edge. At 6'2", he was already on the smaller end of the size chart for the skill he was most prolific in, shooting. At that time, shooting guards were expected to be at least 6'4", or have skills that could slide them to the point at times. Lofton was an amazing shooter, but at that size and not having any point guard skills at all cost him a bit when scouts were taking a look at possibly drafting him. If you look at his numbers through his college career, he's never averaged more than or even 2 assists a game. He also wasn't a very good rebounder on the defensive or offensive end. He did manage to garner a pretty solid average of steals, but those mainly came from deflections and playing the passing lanes. Had Lofton have more point guard skills like leading a team, getting into the lane more, and passing/making teammates better, he would definitely have gotten drafted and be a player in the mold of Devin Booker, who can do all those things when he wants to. With him fighting the cancer stigma, where teams just didn't want to deal with the issue, he needed everything else to go well. That was not the case. His numbers were down, and it was clearly because of the cancer. He couldn't pass well enough, and besides scoring, what else does he give you? At that size, that's how a GM is thinking. For these reasons, he went undrafted and has been overseas ever since. All in all, he was a great college player that had an unfortunate occurrence happen to him in the most inopportune time. But he's carved out a great life for himself. His number 5 jersey is being talked about being retired at Tennessee, and I think that's long overdue. Salute to him. I loved watching him play during his time, and to this day, will believe the NBA really missed one here. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. I'm out.